Hey Life Vantage, this is Clinton Boyles, Elite Pro 9, and I'm excited to share with you today kind of my journey, my story of building this business, my story of where I started and where it's gotten me to today, the principles and behaviors I've learned through this process, and what has happened since as I've continued to plug into these principles and behaviors, and they've become one of the biggest pieces of my life and how I build my life and my business. I was 26 years old when I got laid off in the mining industry. So I had 4 children. I was living outside of Denver, Colorado, and I was an underground gold miner, doing explosives, drilling, running heavy equipment, and I got laid off. The economy crashed in 2008, and everything just went crash. And moved from Denver, Colorado to Kansas City, Missouri. And I'd made a decision in my life that I was going to stop being dictated by time and bank account. I was going to figure out how to put two together. And this was October 2008, getting laid off, and February of 2009, I got introduced to network marketing. I got introduced to Life Vantage, and I got introduced to a different way. I got introduced to leveraged income, and it changed my life. It changed my perception, my thinking, everything. So as I sat down and I went through a presentation, as I learned of network marketing and the possibilities, at first I didn't think it was real. A very little cost. I'm 30,000 plus negative in a bank account. I don't have a lot of income. I have none. I'm living in somebody else's basement in Independence, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri. And these guys, I get introduced to a business as a very little cost and a very little overhead to start. And the opportunity that I had to work with leaders and mentors that have already done it. And that's one thing that I learned growing up at in a very low-income family, a family that didn't have a whole bunch. We didn't have a whole lot. We didn't do a whole lot. So having that opportunity to learn from somebody that has already done it really interested me. And I went home, I was flat out excited, telling everybody, the 18 people that I lived in the house, I found a business, I found an opportunity, I'm going to do it. And as they found out it was network marketing, they told me how ridiculous and how stupid I was. And this really punched me hard. It didn't stop me, obviously, as I'm still here, but it hit me hard as I learned that there's so many negatives about the industry because people truly don't get educated. But I was still determined because I was done with taking advice from people that were in a financial position. It's like you would not take financial advice from someone that's filing bankruptcy or broke or doesn't have a job, those kind of things started coming through my mind, and it was absolutely powerful that after I got introduced to network marketing, it was a few weeks later, I was introduced to one of the top income earners in this industry and in this company. I was introduced to a true mentor and leader, Marcel Niederhauser, that would then educate me about behaviors and principles over the next 5 years, if I followed them, could help me get a completely different life. So I got started. I ran after it. I knew nobody in Kansas City. I didn't know anybody in that area. I was talking to everybody around me. I was putting people on three-way phone calls. Nothing was happening. The funny part was that as this area started to grow, it was kind of a pre-launch in the aspect of Life Vantage. It was just getting going. The product was still on the shelf. The company was losing $1 million. My AD number is 60. And we got started without any applications, without any computers. There wasn't a whole lot at Life Vantage at this point. I had a vision and a dream with these guys that we were going to make this thing absolutely huge. I knew and trusted where these guys were going because I could see the vision as they spoke about it, as I'm speaking about it today to you. So as I got started, I watched these people that got involved. They started growing their business. And I wasn't very good. I sucked at this thing. I wasn't good at presentations. I wasn't good at talking to people. I struggled really bad. And it was about as 3 months into this thing, as we launched the company, because we were in a pre-launch, we launched the company. People around me launched as Pro 4s and Pro 5s and Pro 6s. I still struggled. I struggled and I didn't understand and I didn't know how to actually do it. And I was frustrated. And so I kept going. I kept working it. I kept attending the meetings. I stayed plugged in, and I had a vision. But everybody around me that I lived with and people around me, are you done yet? This is stupid. It's not working. I had all the things that people go through. And I just knew that I had to change this, consistently looking in the mirror, grow, learn, become. Then finally, I had this man that came. I finally got a guest to come to one of the meetings before a big event, Lead Academy. It was going to happen in San Diego. And the guy came drunk and high to the meeting, and he started some chaos. He got kicked out of the meeting, and then I was kicked out of the meetings that were going on in Kansas City. I wasn't welcome to the meetings. I got a phone call, and they said, please don't come to the meetings that are happening in Kansas City. They didn't like the professionalism that I'd brought around, which was unprofessional, which I didn't know. That was just part of the journey. So I'm now 5 months into this business that I started, that I spent money that most people think, well, I don't have that to spend, but I invested into myself. I invested into my future. I invested into me instead of going to work for somebody else. And I seen the vision and the opportunity. I seen a chance to absolutely change my life. I knew that, and I was following true leaders and mentors that had already done it. And as that meeting ended, there was 2 top income earners there, and I asked them, I said, how do I get myself to San Diego, California? The ribbon cutting of the company, it's a big event. You guys keep saying don't miss events. The only reason to miss an event is a death in the family, your own. If you want what we have, they're non-optional, the events. I don't know how to get there. Well, they said, Clinton, do you want what we have? I said, I absolutely do. Then you must do what we've done. Through all struggles, through all trials, through sacrifices, you need to be in San Diego, California, June 26th and 27th of 2009. I remember it like it was yesterday. I went home from that meeting, and the last possession that I actually owned was a bullet bike, a CBR 1000RR that I rode that was worth about 10, 5, 11 grand. And I put it on Craigslist for $3,500, and someone actually came and picked it up the next day. The family and where I was living thought that was stupid and chaotic, and I didn't get what I needed out of it. But I got enough money to get myself to that event, to where I sat in chairs for 2 days, 3 days, and I met incredible individuals, Master Pro 10s. I met individuals that are no different than you and I, that have reached the pinnacle of success, that really follow through with what they said they were going to do, but they follow behaviors and principles which never change. And I learned, and I sat in those chairs realizing that I could do this business, just like you can do this business. And I went home from that event. Now understand, I was laid off October 31st of 2008. My unemployment was challenged by the company that laid me off, so I had to go through a court process to get it. I literally get home from this event, and on a Tuesday night with the chaotic family that was going on, dinner was happening, I got a phone call from the guy that actually owned the company that laid me off, the guy that actually called and laid me off, that challenged my unemployment. And the same emotions, the emotions of my family being let down. I had 4 children at this time. That it didn't really matter. I was struggling through this process. I didn't have unemployment. I didn't have any money coming in. And those emotions, as his name came across my phone, and I answered the phone and I said, hello. And I talked to him, I listened to him for just a second as he said, we have contracts, we're sorry how things happen, and I stopped him and I said, lose my number, I want nothing to do with you. There's a lot of things, obviously my voice raised, and everything went silent in the home. And you literally could have heard a pin drop as I hung up that phone and said, I have a multi-million-dollar business to run. And I want you guys to understand something. I was a pro zero. I haven't even enrolled a single person. I struggled through this process, and it wasn't for a lack of trying. It was a lack of skills. It was a lack of me learning and growing. But I plugged into that system. I continued to grow and learn. I did 15 presentations a month. I sucked. I consistently did 3-way phone calls. I just wasn't doing things in a correct order. And I about had a panic attack, and I walked out of that home, and I start pacing up and down, and I dialed the number. I dialed Marcel Niederhauser. I dialed his phone, and it rang. And he didn't answer, and it went to voicemail, and it rang, and I continued to push redial over and over and over, and I pushed redial a lot, probably over 50, 60 times. I don't know how many times, but I love the way that he actually answered when he did answer. He was probably busy. Guys, these leaders are building their business. Leaders are building as they're growing with many other people. They want to help as many as they can, and I needed to know what I needed to do to change, to grow, because I've been building. I've put over 80 people that I know in front of this that I personally know. I've talked to a couple hundred people that I didn't know that I put on 3-way phone calls that wanted nothing to do with this. So this was probably the first point in the process of my story that I actually shared some frustration with Marcel. I don't get frustrated very easy. I'm a happy person. This has been absolutely the most incredible journey. I grew and learned through this process. The opportunity to change your life for a very small cost. I look at the first 5.5, 6 months of this business, and it was a huge growing process for me, but it helped me become a different person. So as I had this conversation with Marcel, and it was a frustrating conversation because I'm frustrated. I just had these emotions. I just turned down a multiple six-figure income a year job that I could go back to work and start supporting my family. But I told him that I have a multi-million-dollar business to run. And this is where things got real for me. And as I told him that, hey, look, I've put people on three-way phone calls. Nobody wants anything to do with this. How would you build your business? And as he answered, he goes, well, who told you to do that? And I started saying some things, and he goes, have I ever said just to do three-way phone calls? And I said, absolutely not. And he said, okay, what I would probably do and what you're probably going to have to do is what I've always told you. You're going to have to get in front of people. And I had nothing to go off. I had never done this business. And I said, absolutely great. How do you expect me to do that? I live in Kansas City, Missouri. The people I know live in Colorado, Utah, Arizona. I grew up in Nevada. How do you expect me to do that? And he said, I didn't make the decisions to put you where you're at. You asked me how I'd build my business, and I've told you. And which is a leader taking responsibility for what he needs to say to lead somebody and not taking responsibility for my crap. And at that moment, what went through my mind is, okay, I need to figure it out. So as I went in the house late that night, after waiting till everybody went to bed because I just turned down a job and the chaos is going in that home. Because when I got laid off and I moved into that home, the people that actually owned that home were laid off as well. They didn't have an income. They had 4 degrees. So this is the thing. They were telling me to go back to school and get a degree. I was like, why am I going to go spend money that I absolutely don't have, hundreds of thousands of dollars or even thousands of dollars to get a degree when I don't even know what I want to be in life? I'm 26 years old, okay? So, so that avenue just wasn't for me. So I had to figure, this absolutely intrigued me. The opportunity of working for yourself, very small cost, very small risk, absolutely incredible. So I called an uncle, got him on the phone. He used to be a truck driver. Said, hey, look, I need some help. And this was the next day after I had this conversation with Marcel. I need some help. I need to get to Provo, Utah. Well, in that phone conversation, he said, give me till the end of tonight. I'll see what I can do. He got me a ride from Kansas City, Missouri to Lincoln, Nebraska. And then from Lincoln, Nebraska to Provo, Utah, I had to find my own ride. So my process was, I got to Lincoln, Nebraska, and that truck driver that was in that truck, I talked to him the whole way about LifeVantage. You better believe it. I shared everything with him, and he still hasn't answered my phone call yet today, still after that full 9-hour ride with him, because that's halfway in between Provo, Utah from Kansas City is Lincoln, Nebraska, which is a 9-hour drive. It's a total of 18 hours to Provo, Utah from Kansas City, Independence, Missouri. Anyway, so through that process, I, for the next day, knocked on windows to find somebody that would be willing enough to give me a ride, which this was awkward, uncomfortable. This is not something I wanted to do. This is not something that everybody has to go do, but it's what I was willing to do. I want you guys to understand one thing. There's something that someone can't teach you, and that's a desire. I had a true desire to change my heart. I wanted something here. I seen the opportunity of absolutely changing everything in my life. I got given the chance. I just had to go through the process and learn how to do it. So I got a ride from Lincoln, Nebraska to Provo, Utah. And for some odd reason, that truck driver still today has not answered my phone call after that ride either. 9 hours in the truck with him. I thought he would be absolutely stoked to get out of the truck, to come build network marketing, to actually partner himself with LifeVantage and become a distributor and start working with us. And he didn't want anything to do with it. The other truck driver, they don't answer my phone calls. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense to me because I see a vision here. And I got to Provo, Utah. And I got to borrow a motorcycle from some people that have become incredible friends. They allowed me to borrow their motorcycle. And what happened was it allowed me to get up to Brigham City, Utah from Provo, Utah. And getting up to Brigham City where I sat down with some of the first people that I actually put on the phone with. And in 20 minutes of sitting down and going through a pretty crappy presentation, because I'm brand new. When you're brand new, how good are you at doing presentations, sharing your story, which you're not very comfortable with? How good at you are sharing the company's story and vision? I'm still learning and growing through that process. How good at you is sharing a different way of getting paid when you're broke and you're sitting in front of them, literally looking at them like, I don't need you, but I'd love you to do this business with them. And in 20 minutes, they signed up for the first time. And I want you guys to understand something. That conversation that I had with Marcel was a very real conversation, but it changed my life. It gave me a behavior and principle that I applied, and it worked. Now, it could have not worked. It could have taken a few more chances. But as I sat down and went through that process and Chris and Riley signed up, it allowed me to believe that much greater in the leadership of what Marcel was teaching me. And as I plugged in more and he became the smartest person, I literally, within the next few days, got put on the phone with a lady Riley was sitting in front of that said she wanted to learn how to make money this way. And I sat in front of her, and after sitting in front of her within about a 30 to 45 minute window, she was talking about two ladies that would want to do this with her. We signed her up. We went over to these two ladies. And then within 5.5 months, I had 3 people sign up into my business in one instance. And I was on fire. Sitting down with them face to face, sharing my heart, sharing my story, sharing the company story and vision. And I started getting better at this point. Guys, if you're not bad before you're good, and if you're not good before you're great, you're never going to get good at anything. And that's something that I had to grow and learn into and through this process. So now we're 5.5, 6 months into this process, and I'm growing this business. I'm helping the other people in my business. I'm doing presentations. I'm staying in control. I'm learning this process through this whole time. And now we come 8 months into this business. I'm in 8 months. I'm Pro 4 on the verge of Pro 5, and I sit down Labor Day weekend with an incredible individual that I didn't know, Tony Krashwitz. And how I got to sit down with Tony Krashwitz is through Diane. Diane kept talking about how her son had this incredible friend. This incredible friend would be great at this business, but her son wants nothing to do with network marketing. He wants nothing to do with the stupid crap that she's done or doing, or all this stuff that we go through this process when people won't open up their minds. So I got on the phone with Corey and actually said, hey, look, why don't you allow us to sit down with Tony? Why don't you allow Tony to make a decision for himself? And he said, great, if Tony decides to do this, why don't you put me in, and then we can put Tony in. And Tony we sit down with Tony, September 2009, go through the presentation, and he's there for a long time. Loves the ABC Primetime Video. It twists his mind. We go through the opportunity presentation. I'm flat out excited. I'm sitting in front of somebody. I follow up with him 9 a.m. the next morning, and him and his wife are ready to do this thing. They're ready to go after it, and they're ready to get moving. And I ask him for a little bit of time because there's somebody else I have to track down, because I made a commitment to Corey that I'd allow him to enroll before Tony. So Tony got involved, and we did his first presentation. We actually did his first few presentations that day, and he had his first enrollment with his first presentation sitting down. And then Tony got in the truck, and he took off. He took off, and I was calling him every freaking 5-10 miles because I was excited. Somebody wanted what I wanted to do, and I was calling Tony. Tony was calling people on the phone. He was signing people up, and as we started signing these people up, I started communicating with them and then going out to where they live. This process of this story of learning and growing, I tracked my behaviors through a paper calendar. I literally did not understand network marketing or how to build it or these behaviors. But through the process of mentor and leadership, I learned through this, and I went through some of the hardest things. We went through the struggle of understanding how to have posture in the network marketing industry. There's not a person that I can't sit down with today and have a conversation and share that network marketing is one of the best journeys and the most incredible financial decisions that I've ever made. It's a business decision that allowed me to literally change my life. And I've learned that your network becomes your net worth, because who you can network with and the friends and the influences that you have that you can put into your life, your kids' life, allow you to come into many other people's lives. So this is part of my Life Vantage journey and the process of sharing my story. It took me 19, 20 months to reach the rank of Pro 7 and average about $10,000 a month. It took me about 2.5 years to reach Pro 8. And in 3.5, 4 years, we were able to reach the Pro 9 rank, working towards Pro 10. And the incredible thing was that Tony Krashwitz and myself were able to pair up together, get in a car, and start getting in front of people and doing these presentations and sharing the journey over a white piece of paper. It's been absolutely incredible, and this is one thing I've learned. This company and this industry of network marketing doesn't prejudge your age, your background, or race. It's whether or not you want to change your life and you have a true desire. There's mentorship and leadership here that will help teach you the whole way through the process. We look forward to working with you.